What's going on, everybody? Spaceballs here. Welcome back to another Awakening Chaos Era video. Alright, everyone, today we're going to talk about the best faction followed by the best duo in the game. Before we get into this, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I hope you guys are safe and healthy, and this new year brings you everything you want and then some. Thank you guys for all the best wishes. I'm getting over the flu. I still have it a little bit. My throat still hurts a little bit. Nothing too crazy. We're getting through it. We're almost done with it. I'll be live streaming tonight and normal hours from this point forward. So shout out to everybody that's there, waited, supported. I appreciate you guys, and I love you guys for it. But let's just get right into this one, and let's talk about the best faction / best combo in the game. I just recently built these 2 units myself, actually 3 units myself. So before we get into that part of it, and I show you the units I'm using and the build that I have on them, let's go over the index and talk about the best faction first. And that's going to be one of the 2 factions that I have completed, and that's Titan Icelands. And the funny thing is, this is the smallest faction in the game currently. And the thing with this is every single hero unit in this faction is 100% usable. And that's because basically all of these characters do damage based off of their max HP, just making them really strong characters and basically all the content in the game. So when I say the best combo, I'm actually referring to Rickard, because this man just hits like an absolute tank. I think everybody knows by now how strong Rickard is. This dude is good everywhere. Bosses, guild boss, the ability dungeon bosses. I've been using him in adventures. He got me unstuck. I was actually stuck on chapter 8, I believe, chapter 8 or something like that. And now I'm able to clear it no problem because I built up my man Rickard, followed by my man Hankrin, which makes Rickard even stronger. And that's the thing with this whole faction. Hankrin is kind of the backbone to it because he boosts max HP and then they do damage based off of their max HP. So he becomes the best support for this faction. And not just this faction. I mean, Hankrin is one of the best supports in the game, period. But running Rickard and Hankrin on the same team, you could basically do whatever you want, clear whatever you want. It's good for arena. I can't even stress enough how good this combo is. I just 6-starred maxed them out myself, and I honestly was stuck in most points in the game, and now I'm not stuck because of these 2. And then if you're lucky enough to also pull the legendary in this faction, which is Brand, he makes it a triple combo, and it makes it so much more OP because this man is putting up a shield every single turn, followed by the max HP, followed by them doing damage based off their max HP. It just becomes such an insane combo. And not even just Rickard, I mean Lodic and Hassel are also really good units because again, both of them do damage based off of their max HP. Like I said before, every dwarf does damage off their max HP except for 2 of them. I believe Mila and Brand are the only 2 that don't do damage based off of their max HP. Yes, Brand does not do damage based off his max HP, but Brand is more of a support in the situation. He brings the defense buff and the attack up, and then he also brings the taunt on his A1 and then the shield that he does every turn, making him just like Hankrin a really top tier support for your dwarfs because it's just less damage that you're going to take overall. And Mila also does not do damage based off her max HP. Mila's a good unit. I don't see a lot of people using her. The problem with Mila is you need to stack debuffs on her, and honestly, you don't want to do that. You don't want to put debuffs on yourself in most cases. So I think Mila kind of loses the spotlight a little bit in that aspect because nobody wants to take a unit that they have to put debuffs on. Most people don't even want to take debuffs. They just want to do damage, and they don't want to have to worry about a stipulation of putting debuffs on themselves. So Mila doesn't really get the action that she probably deserves. Now, don't get me wrong. I see a lot of people using Mila in an effective way. I just don't use her myself because I don't want to deal with all this negative effect stuff. Maybe in the future I'll build her for testing and whatnot, but right now I'm just going to leave Mila alone. For this video's purposes, we're going to say Hankrin, Hassel, Lodic, Rickard, and Brand. Top tier dwarfs, I feel like they're usable anywhere in the game. Basically, you could take 4 of them, put them on a team, and you're good to go. You could use Brand, Rickards, Lodic, Hankrin, Hassel. Doesn't matter how you put them together, and you're going to be able to probably clear adventures, ability dungeons, much faster than you were clearing them before, bounties. Doesn't matter what content it is. These dwarves are definitely the king faction in my opinion. So now with that being said, how do we build them? And like I said before, they're very easy to build, and that's what also makes them so top tier because you don't have to worry about getting, a ton of DPS stats and then having a glass cannon. Something like a Rickard, for example, you could just stack as much HP as possible. Now, I do want to get some crit rate on him. I don't have enough, in my opinion. I kind of want him at that 80% crit rate mark. At the end of the day, he does do DPS off his max HP, so when he crits, I do want that to scale with his crit damage. So I'm not saying you absolutely need crit rate, but over time, getting crit rate on him would be a really good thing. The way I'm running him currently, he's working fine, so he doesn't absolutely need crit rate. It's just something extra you can put on him as you get better gear. So this is the gear I'm currently. Nothing crazy. We still have a level 7 body, level 9, most of it. Boots, we got to 12, 11, and 10. And all you really have to do is stack HP. So we went HP boots, HP ring, and HP necklace. I do want to get him up to about 160 speed eventually. I don't want to have him at plus 16 speed. We can actually look at his overall stats. The thing is, when you start doing Void Tower and stuff like that, you want to be faster than the enemy. And being at 114 speed, that's never going to happen. So I do want to speed him up. In the future, I could even do speed boots with an HP percentage substat, something like that. Because I think 114 speed is just not good enough. We definitely want to get him at 160, 170. I was really just threw this gear on him just to test him out and see how good he was. And now that I know that he's God tier broken, paired with the other dwarfs, I'm definitely going to invest some good gear into him. So we have him at 45% crit rate, 158 crit damage, and then we have him at 17k health, and none of his gear is even close to being maxed. When it comes to abilities, you want to max them out as much as you can. I mean, if you're going to use a character, you want to max out the abilities, especially if it's an epic, because it's not hard to do. It's not like doing a legendary where it takes so many runs to get it maxed. When you're doing an epic, it's much, much easier, and shouldn't be hard for you to be able to max out his abilities. I believe it's 10 total, so not that much. Next up, his duo partner, and I think these two just are made for each other. They're meant to be together. They're meant to be on the same team, and that's my man Hankrin. He's a free fusion guy, so if you don't have Hankrin, you have Rickards, you could just go fuse him. So it's not like this team is out of reach for most people. Really, you just have to get Hassel, Rickards, and I believe Lodic you get free in the beginning of the game as well. So you'll definitely have at least Lodic and Hankrin in the beginning until you can pull Rickards or Hassel. So you'll definitely have some type of dwarf team going on due to the fact that you can just go and fuse Hankrin either way, get him up and going, because even without the dwarfs, he's still one of the best supports in the game. Now, the only difference with Hankrin is you're going to go with defense instead of HP, because in my opinion, I don't think Hankrin's really there for the damage. He's there for the support. And his A2, I believe, is based off of his defense. So yeah, he deals damage, puts up a taunt, and this is going to scale with his defense. I believe he's the only character in the game that has damage that scales with his defense. So you're basically going to gear him the same exact way, except you're going to try to get as much defense as possible along with HP, because you want HP to scale with the defense. You don't want to just go all defense and no HP, because then you won't have enough hit points to justify the amount of defense you have on him. That's a mistake that I made already, because I just threw gear on them at this point, trying to get them ready for testing. So I went triple defense, which is a huge mistake with a defense set. I'm not going to keep this. I'm going to change these boots probably to speed, and then the ring most likely to HP, and then I'll do a defense necklace, something like that. So don't go by this gear, but overall his stats aren't bad. It works. He's never dying. He does have 14k health, followed by 2500 defense. Once I max out his gear, he's definitely not going to need 35k defense. And if he does have 35k defense, I want him to have at least 25k health, something like that. But again, I want to get him to that 160 speed threshold, so we're definitely going to be putting speed boots on Hankrin as well. Next up on my team, I'm able to put Brand. If you don't have Brand, you can use Hassel, you can use Lodic. It really just depends on what you have in your box. You don't necessarily need Brand. He just makes the team that much better because of his every turn shield. Really, really strong in this game, especially when it comes to bosses and the adventures. But if you don't have Brand, don't worry. You could use Lodic or any other dwarf to fill that spot until you pull Brand, hopefully in the future. Even now, I'm using William as my fourth. I'm not using all dwarfs. I either use Blackhorn or William depending on what content I'm doing. You're going to gear Brand the exact same way. He's there as a support. He's there for the taunt, the shield, the attack buff, and the defense buff. He's not really doing much damage. He does do okay damage, but he's not there for the damage necessarily. Rickard is basically your main damage dealer, or one of your dwarfs that are doing damage based off of their max health. That's going to be your main damage dealer, and Brad is just there to protect, just like Hankrin. And with this team being so tanky, you'll find that the runs might be slower, but you'll never die because there's so much protection and so much tankiness going on that you won't fail the runs like you used to, because you're not using glass cannons and DPSs. If they don't do enough damage, they die in the next turn. You definitely will not have that problem if you're running the dwarf team, because they're so tanky. And the same build for Brand: tankiness, HP, defense. And again, I do want to get my dwarfs up to 160, so I will be changing all of their boots to speed boots probably right after this video on stream. But having them slow like this, not a good thing. You definitely want to get them up to that 160, 170 speed area. This way, when you go into Void Tower and stuff like that, you'll be speed tuned. You don't have to worry about the boss or the enemies taking a turn before you do. Not that it necessarily matters, because I noticed that even if they take the first turn, my team is so tanky that we're able to just soak up the damage anyways. But it's still good to go first as you get to harder stages of Mythic and just higher in Void Tower in general. So Brand's sitting at 20k HP, almost 2000 defense. Speed is not where we want it. Crit and crit damage we don't care about too much. We do want to get some focus on Brand, though. I did think about this the other day. He does have a taunt on his A1, and I want him to be landing this taunt all the time. And lately I've been pairing him with William. William puts up the counterattack buff. everybody hits Brand. Brand returns damage with the taunt. I don't have enough focus, so he's not really landing the taunt enough. So I do think I might want to put some, either a focus set or even a focus necklace on Brand. See how that works. Because the taunt really does come in handy, especially if you're taunting, you know, half the team every turn. That just gives you more general control. So that's my current team. And like I said, William will be the kicker or Blackhorn will be the kicker depending on what content I'm doing. So I'm going to show you some examples, some runs like we usually do. I'm going to put it in ×4 speed. So I'm going to bring them into an ability dungeon, and I'm going to bring them into, I think, Chapter 9 Mythic Adventure. This way you guys can see the team in action. I think one is with Blackhorn and one is with William. Before we get into that, I want to show you my Winter Festival score, which is triple S now that I built the Dwarf team. Before I had this team, I wasn't even barely getting double S. Built this team, we got up to 350,000 damage, no problem. And you guys saw the gear. The gear is nothing special. We're not fast enough. Nothing is maxed out. But we're using Bran, Hankrin, Rickards, and I threw Shadowblood in there because she's actually really good for bosses as well. I was kind of mad at myself for 6-starring her, but I've been using her a lot more lately. She's so self-sufficient, and she does really good damage. And she fits really well into the Dwarf team as well. I do tend to use William and Blackhorn more, but Shadowblood is also another really good option for the Dwarf team. So something like this would be a really, really good team for you guys as well. If you already have Shadowblood 6-starred, if you don't have Blackhorn, or if you don't have William, she'd be a really, really good placeholder for them. Now, in some situations, you definitely want to use Blackhorn because he brings the heal and he cleanses and all that stuff. So he's just a really good support to have on the team. So I'm going to do a run in the Dark Ability Dungeon, and I'm also going to do a run in, I believe, Stage 9-1 Adventures. Wherever I am in Adventures, I believe it's Stage 9-1 now. And then when the runs are over, I'll do them in ×4 speed, like I said, and then we'll come back, we'll talk about it, and we'll close this video out. So enjoy, and I'll be right back. And poof, we're back. Okay, so the first thing I noticed in the ability dungeon, the dark dungeon, Rickard does huge damage to bosses. The second thing I noticed is that we had an attack down across the board on every single enemy. So Rickards is really strong in that aspect as well. The only thing I really noticed that's a problem is that the run is slower, and that's because Rickards' ultimate's on a 6-turn cooldown, and that's basically our only source of damage. But other than that, the team works great. We didn't even come close to dying. I think Brad was basically sucking up all the damage because of his taunt. Now, the one thing I do want to change, like I said before, is I definitely want to get more focus on Bran so he can land his taunt along with the attack down. And that's just going to give us so much stability because we're not going to have to worry about any of our other dwarfs taking damage. Bran's going to take all the damage, and the damage that he does take is going to be mitigated by Rickard's attack down. So we definitely have a work in progress here. I think this team will definitely be able to clear all of the adventures, 9 and 10, no problem. The thing with using this team and using a glass cannon DPS team is that glass cannons in this game, I noticed, just can't take damage. Like, they could dish out the damage, but if you don't kill the enemy on the following turn, you're most likely going to get one shot or really, really close to being one shot. At least with the dwarves and Hankrin, you are able to soak up all the incoming damage. Now, yes, maybe the run is longer. I definitely want to get it down to like 7 to 10 rounds, opposed to, 15 to 18 rounds. But just to clear content, it doesn't matter to me if it takes a little bit longer. I'd rather just get the content cleared, get it out of the way, then move on to the next thing, especially when it comes to bounty hunts and Void Tower. Because I think this team is going to be really key when it comes to Void Tower Hard and Mythic. Because if I use the DPS and Void Tower Hard, it just gets one shot. If I use the Dwarfs, they seem to work much, much better. I can even do most of the stages on auto. So I definitely think the Dwarf team is one of the best options, especially if you're new to the game. Now you might say, well, I'm new to the game, I don't have any Dwarfs yet. That's not necessarily true because you can fuse Hankrin, like I said before, and Lodic everybody gets for free. So let's say you don't have Rickards to back up your Hankrin. No problem, don't worry about that because you get Lodic for free. And he also does damage based off his max HP. I remember using Lodic when I first started playing the game, and I remember saying to myself, wow, this dude does a ton of damage. And that's because on his ultimate, he's doing damage based off his maxed health, just like Rickards. But he could definitely fill Rickards' place perfectly. I actually want to put Lodic and Rickards on the same team. And in doing that, I feel like I'm going to be able to speed these runs up by tenfolds. Because what's going to happen is now we're going to have 2 massive damage dealing heals. We're going to have one from Rickards, and we're also going to have one from Lodic. Lodic's is only on a 5-turn cooldown. It is an AoE at 70% damage, but I remember this skill doing really, really hefty damage, and he also brings another attack down to the table. So he's very, very similar to Rickards, except he's just a water version of him. I think a lot of people sleep on Lodic because we get Lodic for free in the beginning of the game, and it's just the way we are as gacha players. We tend to sleep on the free units that we get, but I think Lodic and Hankrin is just as good as a combo as Rickards and Hankrin are. Then you could just fill in the blanks with whatever else you have support-wise, whether it's Celestial Cane or something like that. Yolanda would actually be a really good placement for Brad, so if you don't have Brad, you have Yolanda. Yolanda would fill that role fine because she gives massive shields, way bigger shields than Bran does. So if you don't have Bran, don't worry. If you don't have Rickards, don't worry. You could still use some form of this team. It just really depends on what you have in your box. So if you don't have William and Bran, you can replace for Lodic. Even Santis is really good in this team. Blackhorn is a very good option for this team. Celestial Cane. Connor can even be a good candidate for it. You really just want to fill in the blanks with something really tanky that's going to bring more overall support to the team. My goal now is to just speed this team up. I love the team. I just think it needs to be a little bit faster. So I'm going to 6-star Lodic, get him geared up, and I'm going to pair him with Rickards. And the really good thing about that, too, is that one is water, one is wood, so now we're covering more elements, so I'll be able to clear stages much faster. Because you really don't want to farm a stage at 17, 18 rounds. You want to be farming much faster than that. So I will definitely do some tweaking on this team, but I think overall this is a really, really solid, fantastic combo we have going on here with Harkin and another dwarf. It just, again, showcases how strong the dwarf faction is, because it doesn't matter what dwarf you have. You just need to pair that dwarf with the free fusion Hankrin, and you are good to go. You're going to have yourself a really badass combo. And that goes for all content, guys. That goes for arena content. I feel like this team has a place on defense, offense. I was using it to do bounty hunts. I was using it in Void Tower Hard. So I know the team is good all over the game, and that's the best part of it. You're not limited to specific content like you are with certain damage dealers, depending on their element, how much damage they could take, all that stuff. At least with the dwarfs, you can bring them wherever you want. You don't have to worry about them getting one shot. But I want to know how you guys feel. What's your favorite faction? Are you using the dwarf faction? What's your favorite combo? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, so comment down below and let me know what you're thinking. Thank you guys so much for the support here on YouTube. We're so close to 5,000 subs. Once we reach it, we'll start another sub celebration. If you want to follow me on Twitch and Discord, those are always linked down below. We do 2 monthly giveaways on Discord. We're going to giveaways on Twitch. If you want to be a part of the random giveaway that we do here on YouTube, all you have to do is sub to the channel, like, and comment on my past 10 videos, and that will automatically enter you to the random giveaway. I truly do love each and every single one of you. I will see you in the next one. Spaceballs out. Peace.